So we're going to learn a Sikha the Rebbe from Acharon Shel Pesach, Tov Shin Mem Gimel. And the lesson of this, again, even though it was said on Acharon Shel Pesach and seems to do with something that we do on Acharon Shel Pesach, but the lesson applies now as well. The Rebbe earlier in the farbrengen was talking about the fact that the Rabbeim told over the story before Kiddush on Shviur Shel Pesach about not why we don't recite Shachiyanu. And one of the reasons we don't recite the Shachiyanu is a whole story with the Tzemach Tzedek and his daughter. I'm not going to go into that right now. Is because the last days of Pesach have to do with the future redemption, and since it didn't appear yet, we can't celebrate it by saying Shachiyonu. The first days of Pesach have to do with the past, with Yetzias Mitzrayim. It occurred already, we could say Shachiyonu. What's about the future, that we can't say Shachiyonu about. So the Rebbe says he's going to speak about it, why they felt the need of emphasizing this. And in a different Sikha, the Rebbe even says that in the days of the Rebbe Rashab and the Frierdiker Rebbe, every Shviur Shel Pesach, before Kiddush, they discussed this. Before Kiddush even. This was a topic of discussion, why we don't say Shachiyanu. So let's see, top of the page. Second line. The Buram Sharabeinus Rabbeinu Nisiyenu. Oides Shlulas Inyan Damir Shachiyanu, who bir betoira. The words of our Rabbeim are Nasim about not saying Shachiyanu is an explanation in Torah. Tam ha'alocha, madua ein oimrim Shachiyanu. The reason for the halacha, why we do not recite Shachiyanu, b'yom machroinim, in the final days of Pesach, Fishul halacha b'Torah, the way it's halacha in Torah. Shezeu inyan naila yoser masher inyan the Shachiyanu kvish b'metzias ha'olam amiras Shachiyanu kipshuta. This itself is a higher thing than the concept of Shachiyanu, the way it's in the existence in the world, reciting Shachiyanu in the simple sense, because Torah is higher in the world. So saying it and speaking about it in Torah has a very great thing. Along with that, the intention of here is that this matter should remain the way it's halacha in Torah. Rather, from the halacha in Torah, this matter should come down into the existence in the world. That's the general idea of halacha, that we find in that both extremes, both sides. Mitzad echad Geulah b'yoser malos and shal halachas kimivur b'geras hakodesh simach tes b'biyah mamar zal kol shein halachas chol yom. That we know that it's a great quality of halachas, like it's explained in the end of Tanya in the Geras HaKodesh, concerning what the Chazal say, whoever studies halachas every day, halachas in Yonam Gili Rosnelim Baruch Nelam, that halachas is revealing, is the idea of the revealing of the Hashem's concealed will. Because until the halacha codified it, it was not clear. And then the halacha said, this is what Hashem wants. On the other hand, the purpose of halacha is it comes down here below in the existence of the world, like it says, that the ways of the world is for him. In other words, halacha is about impacting the world. Let's skip over let's skip the paragraph to the next paragraph. Valpiza, moving according to this understood, Shegam biyomim achronim the Pesach, yeshna in the Shachiyanu kvishu balacha b'Torah, that also on the final days of Pesach, there's the idea of Shachiyanu, the way it's a halacha in Torah, hainu bedargen nailis yosen mekmoshu b'metzias ha'olam biyom harishayim the Pesach. In a certain degree, it's even a higher level than the way it was in the existence of the world, in the first days of Pesach. And in such a manner, the way it's halacha and Torah is in nimshach v'mtzias ha'olam ad lamata mata, it comes down in the existence of the world, down here below. Let's So the Rebbe is going to go on to explain about halacha has to do with, it says earlier, in the part that we skipped, it says halacha is Rosh Tevis Hariu LaHashem Kol Haaretz, that the entire world should either cry out to Hashem, or from the word breaking with iron, in other words, reaching to the lowest part in the world. So let's read a little bit about this, and then we'll skip a little bit further. And explanation, what is affected through the halacha and Torah about the idea of shachiyanu. But even more in depth, by first prefacing. Nisbar La'el was previously explained, Sha'inyan the halacha Rosh Tevis Haril Hashem Kol Haaretz, that the idea of halacha, which is Rosh Tevis, that the entire world should proclaim and cry out to Hashem, kosher, and Ma'inyan the Teroyim B'Shevet Barzel is also connected, that with an iron rod you will smash them. Meaning, this indicates I'm drawing down and descending very much below, until it's such a low place that the only way I can be fixed up is through shattering and breaking. Like the well-known expression, shvirason zuhi takanason, that the breaking of something, that is the way it's fixed up. So he says, this idea that breaking fixes it, it's one of the topics that has no explanation, only through the teachings of Chassidus. By the way, the original idea of Shviras and Zuvi Takanosan has to do with the end of last week's Parsha. The last Aliyah in last week's Parsha, Rashi mentions that a Kli Cheres, that an earthenware vessel that becomes Tameh, there is no way of purifying it from Tumah. The only way to purify it is by breaking it. That's what it means. Breaking it is its repair. The only way to release the tumah from it is through breakage of that vessel. So he says, the lechura, the Rebbe says, ain't a moving, it seemingly it's not understood. Keitzad shayach loimer sheshviras hadavar, bitl mitziyusay, hitakanos shal. How is it possible to say that breaking something, nullifying its existence, is the repair of the matter? This is just, it's an oxymoron. It's self-contradictory. Explanation this according to the teachings of Chassidus. That explains it in such a way that even an ordinary Jew can understand this. Also an ordinary Jew knows everything in the world, the heavens and earth and everything in them, was created by Hashem, because nothing makes itself. So let's skip over to the next page. It's self-understood. This both applies for something that's good or something that's the opposite of good. Even something that's bad, skip the parentheses. Nivrasa de Kodesh Baruch Hu was created by Hashem. Mikivin shein davar oisets atzmei, because nothing can make itself. Umikivin shloi bara Kodesh Baruch Hu davar levatolo, since Hashem did not create anything for no reason. Hari behechrach loimar shegam bebrias mitzias harayish kavon v'tachlis. We must say that also in the creation of the existence of bad, there is an intention and a purpose for it. Koloimar. This means only through the existence of bad. It's expressed the great quality of the prince, that he withstands the challenge and the test, and he doesn't consider the bad whatsoever. There is a purpose in the existence of bad itself. What could that be? It's obvious that in creating something bad, it's not that they should use it, heaven forbid, the existence of bad, as it is, but just the opposite. Because using the bad actually damages the existence that's bad. In addition to the opposite of good and the damage that occurs to the person that uses the bad, it's the opposite of good for the sake of the bad itself, that what you're trying to do with the bad. The intention and the goal in the existence of bad itself is in two aspects. Aleph, there should be the advantage and quality of transforming it after you first had sublimated it and subjugated it. Let's skip over through to the third line, Bays. Second thing is Kadeshia Inyan the Shviras Hara. There should be the idea of breaking the bad. Also through this is fulfilled the intention and purpose of creating the bad. The ultimate purpose and the goal of creating something that's bad, the opponent is Kadesh Yochal Lios is Galus Midas Hanetzach Shalomailai Desha Shoivrim Menatzkim Asamanagid. Through that should be the revelation of Hashem's attribute of perseverance, of victory, of above, through breaking and defeating the opponent. Let's skip over to the next paragraph. That the breaking that brings about their repair. Through breaking them is fulfilled the ultimate purpose of their existence in the most highest way, the revelation of victory above. Let us skip over to Ois Vav. That's 3 paragraphs down. Valpiza Yuvan Gamma Inyan the Taroyim Beshevet Barzel Shvirosam Zotakinosam. Also, this will be understood, the idea of shattering them with an iron rod, which is the idea of breaking them. That is their repair. Kefi Shubenegel La Halacha Shubenidin Dedan, as it concerns the halacha in our case. Which halacha are we talking about over here? The explanation of our Rebbeim Anusim about negating the saying of Shachiyanu in the final days of Pesach. Hatam she'ein oimrim Shachiyanu b'yom machrein the Pesach. The reason why we don't say Shachiyanu in the final days of Pesach is neshekol zman shenimtzoyim adayim begolus. As long as we find ourselves in exile, it's impossible to make a brach of Shachiyanu with something that's connected with the future redemption. So now let's think about it, the Rebbe says. V'nimtza comes out. Shadibur oidis inyan zeh. Speaking about this topic. Listen what the Rebbe is saying over here. That what topic? Shnimtzoyim adayim begolus. That we're still found in exile. Because of that, we are unable to say Shachiyanu for the future redemption. So that is that itself awakens and expresses the yearning, the desire, the looking forward to the future redemption. Now we understand why the Rabbeim spoke about it. This is the reason why our Rebbeim spoke about the idea of Shachiyanu. Shebizman hagolus, that in the time of the exile, lo yicholim adayin levarch shachiyanu ala gula sida, in the time of exile, it's impossible to make a brach of shachiyanu on the future redemption. How come? Kidei la'oirer ulahadgish esatshuka v'atzfia legula sida, to awaken and to emphasize the yearning and the looking forward to the future redemption and the hope for the future redemption. And through that hope and through that yearning, the place where a person's thought, the Baal Shem Tov taught, Sham hu nimtza, that's where he is to be found. V'yesh lekasher es inyan hatshuka v'atzpia legula asida hamudgeshes v'diburin shel Rabbeinu Nasienu. We can connect the idea of the yearning and looking forward to the future redemption that's emphasized in the speech of our Rabbeim. What we do not say shachiyanu im divrei apsikta, according to the words of the Medrash, that are brought down by the Rabbeim in the Amorim of the final days of Pesach. Al pasuk, skip the parentheses, that with you, the source of life, in your light we will see light. What does it mean? In your light we will see light. What is the light that the Jewish people are looking forward and hoping for? This is the light of Moshiach. In addition to that, the yearning and the looking forward and hoping for the future redemption, contains in it also the breaking of the Geulah. Because this yearning expresses the pain that the Yidden have for the Geulah. And the feeling of the pain of the Geulah, that is its breaking. And through this itself is fulfilled the intention that's to be found in the idea of exile. The ultimate intention and purpose of Geulah is like all untoward things, unwanted things, to break the Geulah. Like we said before, breaking it, that is its repair. According to this, it's understood the great advantage of the final days of Pesach. Not only are these days corresponding to the future redemption, even more so, that through them we nullify, we break the general idea of exile, through the yearning and hoping for the future redemption. It's emphasized by the fact that we do not speak about the reason that we are speaking about the reason why we don't say Shechiyanu. Through this we reveal the general and the goal and the purpose of the general idea of Geulah, the breaking of them, that's the repair. Zayin ha'amr, what we said before, moving gamli Yehudi Pashut is also understood to an ordinary Jew. Kasher masbirim the Yehudi Pashut, when we explain to an ordinary Jewish mitzada klal the mailam bekodesh, that when you look at the rule that we're supposed to always ascend in holiness, behechrich loimar, we must say, sheyeshna ilui b'yom machrein the Pesach l'abishar yomim, there must be an advantage in the final days of Pesach over the other days of Pesach. So that Jew is like a very strong question arises. How is it possible? The final days of Pesach, we don't make Shechiyanu. If we're supposed to go up higher and higher, like a regular Jew knows, you don't have to be a big Talmud Chacham to know. Should be Yom Machrein the Pesach. In the last days of Pesach, you don't make Shechiyanu. Especially continues and asks, that's the only Yom Tov that we do not say Shechiyanu in it. Shavuos we say Shechiyanu in the first and the second day. Sukkot we say Shechiyanu also in the first days and also in the final days. And there's an exception of the 3 pilgrimage Yom Tovim, Varak, Yom Acharon, the Pesach, and only in the final days of Pesach we don't say Shechiyanu. It seems incongruous if you need to go up in holiness. For this we respond to him. The Pesach, the reason we don't say Shechiyanu in the latter days of Pesach, it's so that you, the regular Jew, should ask, why is this so? Similar to the changes that we make in the nights of the Seder in the first days of Pesach, to make the children wonder. They should ask about, why do we have these changes? The same thing, we don't say Shechiyanu. To awaken this question by us, why don't we say Shechiyanu? And then they'll explain to you. That's because we're still found in the time of exile. And for this reason we can't make a bracha Shechiyanu on the future redemption. Through this you'll be awakened in a great desire and yearning and hope for the future redemption. And simply put, if the halacha would have been, theoretically, if the halacha would have been that we made Shechiyanu in the final days of Pesach, it's impossible to know if the reason why he's making Shechiyanu is because he's such a lofty level, it's such a state of Geulah, he's not lacking anything. He has, like it says, the Rashbi didn't have, the Churban Beis Hamikdash didn't happen by him. Or the reason why I'm making Shechiyanu is from the mitzvahs Anoshim L'mada. He's making the bracha Shechiyanu out of habit, not because he recognizes the specialness of the day. Bizarre, something similar. On the other hand, if we wouldn't have made Shechiyanu, but we wouldn't have spoken about it, not like the Rabbeim that made sure to speak about every Shishal Pesach. Again, we do not know and we do not see that anything is lacking. As opposed to if we don't make Shechiyanu. That I was emphasizing. We're speaking about this not making the Shechiyanu. Levire to explain the reason for it is because we're still found in a time of exile. With this is emphasized the pain in the lack of the redemption. This awakens the desire and the hope and the yearning for the future redemption. This is the reason why Rabbeim Nesim spoke about the idea of saying Shechiyanu, meaning why we do not say Shechiyanu, to awaken and to emphasize the yearning and desire and hope for the future redemption. It's understood the special quality when the yearning and the hope for the future redemption express itself in speech. We know that in speech, the inner part of the soul becomes revealed in ways that even thought doesn't have. Till even be that his whole soul comes out in his speech, like it's explained in many places. And especially especially when he speaks in such a way that his entire being is speaking. Like when a Yid learns, he learns with his entire being. He moves his hand, he shakes back and forth. Meaning all the other limbs and organs of his body are involved in this speech. And let's skip to the paragraph afterwards. Through the yearning and the hoping for the future redemption, the future redemption is already affected, Even while we're in the time of Geulah, like we said before, the place where a person's thought is, that's where he is located. If a person will come and say, I don't feel that I'm now in a state of being in a Geulah state because I spoke about it, it's known, the famous saying, the thought of the horse and the balagol doesn't affect any change in the existence of the matter. There's a well-known mashal that's given, that you have a chacham, you have a wise person that's traveling to a city to participate in some deep conversations in Torah and whatever, and he hires a wagon driver. So every person, every entity over here has a different intention in this trip. The horse knows when they'll arrive at their destination, he's going to have some delicious hay to eat. The balagola knows that when he arrives at his destination, he'll be paid, he'll be able to go into an inn, into a kretschma, and have a l'chaim or two. But that doesn't take away from the fact that the reason and the whole purpose of this trip and what's really behind it is that the sage should be able to participate in a Torah convention. So the same thing over here. It doesn't make a difference what I feel or I don't feel. The truth is, I am there because this is where my mind is at. And the Rebbe adds, in addition to that, and this is primary, Gam Yehudi Pashat Shebepshutim, even the most ordinary Jew, Yedeya knows she'ikri shel kol davar hu hanefesh v'chayis haruchni sheboy, that the primary part of every single thing is the soul and the life force that is spiritual that's in it. Whether we're talking about animals, or whether you're talking about vegetation or even inanimate things. Skip the parentheses to the next line. How much more so in human beings, that the spiritual part, the soul, is the main thing. And among human beings themselves, how much more so it's by Yidden that the spirituality of the Jew is the primary thing. Since the neshama that's in him is what's primary, moving is understood. The main thing is that his neshama is in a state of Geulah, through his thought and meditation and hoping for the future redemption. But still in all, since we want to connect this with the physical body, therefore we want to express, and we need to express, the desire, the yearning, the hope for the future redemption, also by speaking with our physical mouth. This is emphasized even more on the final day of Pesach, even more so than on the seventh day of Pesach, even though both of them are days that we do not recite Shachiyanu. Since in the final day of Pesach we connect the desire and the hope for the future redemption, not just with the idea of speech, but also with action. Achila Suda Gashmi is eating a physical meal, Sudasa Shel Moshiach, a meal of Moshiach, and therefore it's even more brought down to the physical world. Ois test, the Yirotzen should be the will of Hashem, from speaking about the future redemption. Niske Bekar of Mamish Geulah Asidah Apoel Mamish, we will merit soon Mamish to the future redemption and actuality. Va'apula Gashmis the Sudas Shel Moshiach, and the actual and the physical action of the meal of Moshiach Tia Ba'if and the Pulin and Shechas will be like an ongoing activity. From this will come down the general idea of redemption through Mashiach. Not after a duration of time, rather in 1 hour and 1 moment, like in the moment of speech, in the very moment that you speak it. Or pashtus, and simply put, take from and we merit immediately to the true and complete redemption through Moshiach. Now here the Rebbe is going to add a very interesting thing. In many places the Rebbe brings up the following point, but most of the time the Rebbe approaches it from one direction, but here the Rebbe is going to answer it in a different way. So he says 2 lines from the bottom, even though Yohan Navi did not come to tell us about the redemption. So, and we know, isn't Yohan Navi supposed to tell us about the Geulah and then Moshiach comes? So the Rebbe says, don't worry, we spoke about this many times. It was spoken about many times about the ruling of the Rambam, there is no necessity to say that Yohan Navi will come before Moshiach comes. How do we know? So let's quote the Rambam. The Rebbe is going to quote the Rambam in Hilchos Malachim, besides Hilchos Malachim, at the end of Laws of Kings, where the Rambam speaks all about different things pertaining to the events of Moshiach and his coming. The Rambam writes, quote, it's evident from the simple words of the prophets that at the beginning of the days of Moshiach, there'll be the war of Gog and Magog, and before the war of Gog and Magog, a prophet will arise. Behold, I am sending to you Al. What does that mean? This already in the beginning of the days of Moshiach. In other words, Moshiach already came. Therefore, according to the words of the Rambam, the opinion of the Rambam, Al Yohan Navi is going to come at the beginning of the days of Moshiach, meaning after the coming of Moshiach. Let's skip the next paragraph to the paragraph afterwards. According to this, we don't have to say what the Rebbe says in many places, that let Moshiach come and then he'll answer the question about how he came before Al Yom. That Moshiach is going to answer how he's be able to come before Al Yom. According to the Rambam, it's not even a question. Yiratzin should be the will of Hashem. Ka'amar, like we said before, Shema Dibur b'chol inyanim elu niska b'karav mamish l'kim kol inyanim elu b'poil mamish, will merit to the fulfillment of all these things. In actuality, bias Moshiach Tzidkenu, the coming of Moshiach Tzidkenu. Let's skip to the next paragraph. Yiratzin should be the will of Hashem. Shekvar bezman hagolus yachibur l'shemayim ubrias yachtav. There shall be already the joining of heavens and creatures together. Geulah elkus ba'olam, the revelation of godliness in the world. Ubay from the toiv in a way that it's good. Toiv l'shemayim v'toiv l'brias, that's good for the heavens, good for the creatures. V'take from yad zoichem l'tachsa shlem is the toiv l'shemayim toiv l'brias. B'geulah sit the love of the Moshiach Tzidkenu, immediately will merit the ultimate perfection, that it's good for the heavens and good for the creatures in the future redemption. Then will merit to make a bracha in actuality and revealed. Like the expression of Torah in the final day of Pesach, I will thank you, Hashem. In other words, will bring Shachiyanu. Like we said before, like a moment of speech, speedily and mamish and with great joy.